The stars looked different from the bridge of the U.S. Pathfinder. Captain John Miller stood tall as he watched the vast emptiness of space through the main viewport. This was humanity's first journey beyond the solar system, made possible by the newly developed faster-than-light drive. The year was 2157, and Earth had finally reached for the stars. "Sir, we're approaching the anomaly near Alpha Centauri," said Lieutenant Amy Clark from her station. John nodded. "Slow to half speed. Let's be careful here." The Pathfinder was Earth's pride, the first deep space exploration vessel built for diplomatic and scientific missions. Its crew of 50 represented the best minds humanity had to offer. John had been chosen to lead them because of his calm judgment and quick thinking. "I'm picking up something strange," said Science Officer Ben White. "It's not natural. Some kind of vessel, but the readings are like nothing I've ever seen." John leaned forward. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered to life, showing a ship unlike anything built by human hands. It was curved like a shell, with glowing blue lines running across its surface. It was at least 3 times the size of the Pathfinder. "Open a communication channel," John ordered. "All frequencies, universal greeting message." Communications Officer Olivia Green worked her console. "Channel open, sir. Broadcasting the greeting package." The bridge fell silent as they waited. Earth had prepared for this moment. First contact with an alien civilization. The greeting included mathematical sequences, simple images, and basic language primers. After several minutes, the alien ship responded. The main screen filled with a being that resembled an upright lizard with 4 eyes and scaled skin. "They're responding to our communication protocols," Olivia said with excitement in her voice. The alien spoke, and the computer attempted to translate. The words were broken, but clear enough. "Why you come here? This space not for humans." John stepped forward. "We come in peace. We are explorers from Earth, seeking friendship and knowledge." The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "No new species allowed. Galaxy has order. You break order." "We mean no harm," John explained. "We only wish to learn and share knowledge. Perhaps we could meet to discuss." The alien cut the transmission. The bridge crew looked at each other nervously. "Sir, they're charging weapons," shouted Security Chief Paul Bennett. John's training kicked in. "Shields up. Prepare for evasive maneuvers." But it was too late. The alien vessel fired a beam of intense energy that cut through the Pathfinder's shields like they weren't there. The ship shook violently. "Multiple hull breaches." Paul yelled over the alarms. "We can't take another hit like that." John made the hardest decision of his life. Abandon ship, all hands to escape pods. He hit the shipwide communication system. "This is the captain. Abandon ship immediately. This is not a drill." The crew rushed to follow orders. John stayed on the bridge, making sure the escape pods launched safely. "Captain, you need to go too," Amy urged as she prepared to leave. "I'll be right behind you," John promised. "I need to make sure everyone gets out." Amy hesitated but nodded and ran to her escape pod. John worked quickly, overriding the safety protocols to launch all pods at once. The ship trembled as another blast from the alien vessel struck it. John watched the monitor as 49 escape pods ejected from the dying ship. He turned to head for the last pod when the final blast hit. The bridge exploded around him. The alien ship, belonging to a race called the Thorlithy, watched coldly as the human vessel broke apart. They ignored the small escape pods drifting away from the wreckage. The lesser beings were not worth the energy to destroy. 3 weeks later, the escape pods were recovered by an Earth rescue mission. The survivors told their story. John Miller was the only casualty, the captain who stayed behind to save his crew. The news of John's death reached Earth, spreading quickly across all nations. On a small farm in Iowa, Lisa Miller received the news that her husband would never return. As she stared at their wedding photo, tears streaming down her face, something hardened inside her. "They took you from me, John," she whispered. They'll pay for that. Lisa had no way of knowing that her personal grief would soon transform into humanity's greatest military campaign. The wheels of vengeance were beginning to turn. 3 months passed since the destruction of the U.S. Pathfinder. The world changed in that time. Nations that once fought each other now stood together. The attack on humanity's first starship united Earth in a way nothing else could have. Lisa Miller sat in a large meeting room at the United Earth Defense Headquarters. Once she had been just a military strategist working at the North American shipyard. Now she looked at the faces of world leaders who waited for her to speak. "The aliens who killed my husband are called the Thorlethi," Lisa said, her voice steady despite her pain. "From what we learned from the ship debris, they are part of a large empire. They destroy other races they see as threats before those races can grow strong." Admiral Frank Davis, a tall man with gray hair, stood up next to her. "The Thorlethi think they stopped us by destroying one ship. They don't know humanity very well." On the large screen behind them, pictures of strange technology appeared. These came from small pieces of the alien ship that had floated away after the battle. "Our scientists have studied these parts," said Susan Wright, the chief engineer. She was small in size but big in brain power. "We found something important. The Thorlethi ships are weak against quantum disruption fields. We can build weapons they cannot defend against." The room filled with excited whispers. Lisa raised her hand for silence. "I have a plan," she said. "A plan that will show the Thorlethi and any other alien race that attacking humans has a price too high to pay." She pressed a button, and the screen showed designs for a massive warship. "This is a dreadnought, a ship built only for war. I propose we build not just one, not just 100, but 500,000 of them." The room erupted in shock. The leader of the European Union stood up. "That's impossible. The resources needed would be everything we have." Lisa finished for him. "Yes, we would need to turn Earth's entire production toward this goal. Every factory, every worker, every resource. 500,000 ships." The Chinese president shook her head. "Why so many?" Lisa's eyes were cold as she answered. "Because I want the Thorlethi to understand something. They took one human life, my husband's life. And in return, we will bring a fleet so vast it blocks out their sun. They must learn that humanity is not to be attacked without facing consequences beyond their imagination." Admiral Davis stepped forward. "The first ship will be named the John Miller. Each dreadnought will carry quantum disruption weapons and be capable of operating without a crew through advanced AI systems." Susan Wright added, "We can build 5 massive shipyards in orbit. With new manufacturing methods, we could complete this fleet in just 3 years." The room grew quiet as everyone considered the enormous sacrifice this plan would require. Earth's economy would focus only on building these ships. Luxuries would disappear. Everyone would work toward one goal: vengeance. The President of the United States stood up. "I say we put this to a global vote. Let humanity decide if this price is worth paying." 1 week later, the votes were counted. Across Earth, humans chose overwhelmingly to build the fleet. Work began immediately. In orbit around Earth, construction started on 5 massive shipyards. Day and night, rockets carried materials up from the planet. Factories that once made cars now made ship parts. Farms expanded to feed the workers. Schools taught children about spacecraft engineering instead of art. 6 months later, the first dreadnought was complete. From her office with a view of the shipyard, Lisa watched as the John Miller moved out of its construction dock. The massive ship gleamed in the sunlight, armed with weapons that could destroy a city. "This is just the beginning," she whispered. Unknown to Earth, Thorlethi scout ships washed from the edge of the solar system. They saw the humans building ships but reported back to their leaders that the primitive species posed no real threat. It was a mistake they would soon regret. As Lisa looked at the first of what would be 500,000 warships, she thought of John. "They took you from us," she said quietly. Now they'll learn what that means. Earth changed. Cities that once shone with lights for entertainment now glowed with the fires of factories working day and night. People who once had many jobs now did one thing: build ships. The planet had become a war machine with one purpose. Susan Wright walked through the largest orbital shipyard, named Vengeance. It floated above Earth like a metal spider, building dreadnoughts in its 8 massive construction bays. 4 more shipyards just like it circled the planet. Susan had designed them all. How many completed today? She asked her assistant. 37, Chief Engineer, he replied. That's a new record. Susan nodded. When they first started, it took months to build one ship. Now they finished dozens each day. Her new methods made this possible. She had created ways to build ship parts faster than anyone thought possible. Below them, robots and human workers moved across the skeleton of a new dreadnought. This one would be the 500th ship completed. Still so far to go, but they were gaining speed. In her office on Earth, Lisa Miller studied the production reports. The first 100 ships had taken 6 months. The next 1,000 had taken only 3 months. Now they were building thousands every month. The great factories of Earth poured out engines, weapons, and hull plates in endless streams. Admiral Frank Davis entered her office. The first battle group is ready for training, he said. Lisa looked up from her desk. On it sat a picture of John. She kept it there to remind herself why they worked so hard. How many ships? She asked. 10,000, Frank answered. We're using the AI systems to run battle simulations. The quantum disruption weapons work perfectly in tests. Lisa stood and walked to the window. Outside, the land had been stripped of trees to feed the hungry shipyards. John would hate what we've done to Earth, she said quietly. Frank stood beside her, but he would understand why we did it. Lisa nodded. Any word from our spies? After the attack on the Pathfinder, humans had found other alien races who also feared the Chlorlithy. Some of these aliens now helped Earth by sending information about the enemy. The Chlorlithy think we're building a small defense fleet, Frank said. They've sent scout ships to watch us, but they don't understand what they're seeing. They can't believe we could build so many ships so quickly. Lisa smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Good. Surprise will be our advantage. In space, aboard the completed dreadnought John Miller, Lisa attended a ceremony. The ship's AI system was being activated for the first time. Each dreadnought had an AI brain that could think and fight without human help. Hello, John Miller, Lisa said to the ship's computer. A calm voice answered from speakers around her. Hello, Lisa Miller. I am ready to serve. Do you understand your purpose? She asked. Yes, the AI replied. I am named for Captain John Miller, who was killed by the Chlorlithy. My purpose is to protect humanity and bring justice for his death. Lisa touched the cold metal wall of the ship, not just justice, vengeance. 1 year passed, then another. The shipyards never stopped. On Earth, people grew thin as food went to the workers building ships. But no one complained. Everyone had seen the videos of the Pathfinder's destruction. Everyone knew what would happen if they showed weakness. A Chlorlithy scout ship watched from the edge of the solar system. Its captain could not believe what he saw. The humans now had over 250,000 warships. Each one was larger and more powerful than any Chlorlithy cruiser. The captain sent an urgent message home, but his leaders did not believe him. How could a primitive species build such a fleet? In Earth orbit, the dreadnoughts gathered. They formed a line so long it circled the planet. From the window of her office, Lisa could see them blocking the stars. Admiral Davis stood at her side. We're halfway there, he said. 250,000 ships, with more completing every day. Lisa nodded. Soon, she said. Soon we will be ready to show the Chlorlithy what happens when you kill one human. In deep space, more alien races heard about Earth's massive fleet. Some feared it. Others hoped it would free them from Chlorlithy rule. All watched and waited for the storm that was coming. 2 years had passed since John Miller died. Earth's fleet now numbered 250,000 dreadnoughts, each one a city-sized weapon of war. They filled Earth's orbit like a metal shell around the planet. Admiral Frank Davis stood on the bridge of the flagship, the John Miller. Around him, screens showed thousands of ships moving in perfect formation. No human hands guided them. The ship's AI systems followed his commands without question. "Begin exercise, Hammer," Frank ordered. Across the solar system, the fleet split into 50 equal groups. Each group contained 5,000 ships. They moved with perfect precision, attacking targets set up near Jupiter. The exercise was designed to test their battle skills. Frank watched with pride. These ships would soon carry humanity's revenge to the stars. Each battle group could destroy an entire star system if needed. On Earth, Lisa Miller worked with the most unusual member of her team. Dr. Peter Washington was an expert in alien minds. He had studied the few Xorlathi messages they had intercepted. "They think in terms of power," Peter explained. "They only respect those who can destroy them. It's built into their culture." Lisa nodded. "Then we'll show them power like they've never seen." Peter looked troubled. "But what happens after? If we destroy them completely, are we any better than they are?" Lisa had asked herself this question many times. "We won't destroy their worlds or kill their people without reason. We only want them to understand one thing: humans are not to be attacked. Ever." In a secret room deep under the ocean, Lisa met with visitors from other worlds. These aliens had suffered under Xorlathi rule for centuries. They brought valuable information about Xorlathi defenses and weaknesses. A small green alien named Zik spoke in a whisper. "The Xorlathi home system has 6,000 defense ships. They think this is an unbeatable force." Lisa smiled coldly. "We will send 50,000 against it." Zik's large eyes widened. 50,000. Impossible. "Watch us," Lisa said. In space, the training continued. The fleet practiced a new kind of warfare, designed by Lisa herself. It focused on overwhelming force and psychological impact. The ships would not just defeat the enemy. They would do it in a way that broke their will to fight. Frank created battle plans for each of the 50 target systems. The Xorlathi Empire was spread across 200 worlds. Earth would attack the most important 50 first, then expand outward. "Sir," said a lieutenant, "the final production report is in." Frank took the tablet and read it with amazement. Earth's shipyards had worked even faster than planned. The remaining 250,000 dreadnoughts would be completed within 6 months, not the year they had expected. "Send word to Lisa," Frank ordered. "Tell her we'll be ready sooner than planned." On Earth, the news spread quickly. After almost 3 years of sacrifice, the end was in sight. People who had given up everything for the fleet now allowed themselves to hope. Lisa visited the last shipyard, where the final dreadnoughts were taking shape. Susan Wright met her there, looking tired but proud. 500,000 ships, Susan said, shaking her head. "When you first proposed it, I thought it was impossible." "But necessary," Lisa replied. "The Xorlathi must learn that humans are not to be trifled with." As the final ships were completed, Earth prepared for war. The fleet gathered around the moon in a display so vast it could be seen with the naked eye from Earth. 500,000 dreadnoughts, each one larger than any city, formed a sphere of metal and weapons. From a small ship, Lisa and Frank watched the assembly of the greatest fleet in history. "For John," Lisa whispered. "And for all humanity," Frank added. Across the galaxy, the Xorlathi remained unaware of what was coming. Their scouts had reported unusual activity in the Sol system, but their leaders dismissed the reports. How dangerous could one primitive species be? On the bridge of the John Miller, Lisa gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. "All ships, prepare for faster-than-light jump. Our target is Thor Prime, their nearest colony. Today we begin." 500,000 engines powered up, 500,000 weapons charged. Humanity was going to war. The jump to faster-than-light speed looked like a flash of blue light from Earth. In space, it was as if 500,000 stars suddenly disappeared. The human fleet was on its way to Xor Prime, the closest Xorlathi colony. Admiral Frank Davis stood on the bridge of the lead ship. 10,000 dreadnoughts followed behind him. The rest of the fleet had split off to prepare for attacks on other systems. "Time to arrival?" Frank asked. 3 hours, sir," an officer replied. Frank looked at the mission details one more time. Xor Prime had 300 defense ships. The Xorlathi thought this was enough to protect their world. They were wrong. Back on Earth, Lisa Miller watched from mission control. Large screens showed the fleet's progress. Though she had planned to leave the attack herself, the world leaders had asked her to stay. She was too important to risk. "All ships report ready," said a young officer at the communication station. "Weapons are charged. Shields are at full power." Lisa nodded. "Remember, we don't attack civilian targets, only military ships and bases." The officer looked surprised. "Even after what they did?" "Especially after what they did," Lisa replied. "We're showing them a better way to be. Power without cruelty." 3 hours passed. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Xor Prime. The blue-green planet looked peaceful from space. Then the Xorlathi noticed them. "They're scrambling their defense fleet," reported a sensor officer on the John Miller. Frank nodded. "Send the message." In every Xorlathi ship and on the planet below, screens showed the same simple words in the Xorlathi language. For John Miller, the Xorlathi fleet commander didn't understand the message. He ordered his 300 ships to attack the human vessels. To him, it seemed like a large enemy force. He had no idea it was just a small part of the human fleet. "They're attacking," Frank said calmly. "All ships, engage." The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. The human dreadnoughts fired their quantum disruption weapons. Xorlathi shields failed instantly. Their ships exploded or drifted dead in space. Not a single human ship was damaged. From his command ship, the Xorlathi fleet commander watched in horror as his entire force was destroyed. He sent a desperate message to the Xorlathi homeworld before his ship, too, was hit. Frank Davis looked at the scattered remains of the Xorlathi fleet. "Phase 2, he ordered. The human ships moved into positions around the planet. Ground bases tried to fire at them, but were quickly silenced. Within an hour, the planet was defenseless. "Open a channel to the planet's leader," Frank said. The main screen showed an older Xorlathi with gray scales. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly in fear. "Why have you attacked us?" the Xorlathi governor asked. "We have done nothing to you. 3 years ago, your forces destroyed a human ship called the Pathfinder," Frank replied. "You killed its captain, John Miller." The governor looked confused. "1 ship, 1 death. And you bring this armada?" "Yes," Frank said simply. "That is how humans respond when one of us is killed without reason. Now you will send a message to your homeworld. You will show them our fleet. You will tell them this is just 1/10 of our total force." The governor's scales turned pale. 1/10. Frank nodded. "The rest are attacking 49 other Xorlathi worlds right now." On Earth, Lisa watched as reports came in from the other battle groups. Every attack was successful. The Xorlathi were completely surprised. Their defenses fell quickly. "Send the second wave," Lisa ordered. 50 more systems. Across the galaxy, the human fleet split again. The dreadnoughts jumped to new targets, spreading like a wave of metal and vengeance. On the Xorlathi homeworld, the High Command received frightening reports. 50 colony worlds under attack at once. Defense fleets destroyed in minutes. The attackers were humans, a species they had dismissed as primitive just 3 years ago. "How is this possible?" the Xorlathi Emperor asked his generals. "How could they build such a fleet so quickly?" No one had an answer. They had never seen anything like this before. A species that would build 500,000 warships to avenge a single death. And now, those ships were coming for them. 1 month had passed since the first human attack. The Xorlethi Empire was falling apart. 100 of their worlds now flew human flags. Their once mighty fleets were scattered and broken. News of the human victory spread to other alien races. Many of these races had suffered under Xorlethi rule for centuries. Now they sought a chance for freedom. On a world called Teller, the small green aliens that Zik belonged to rose up against their Xorlethi masters. Similar rebellions happened on dozens of other planets. Admiral Frank Davis received these reports with satisfaction. Operation Freedom is working, he told his officers. The oppressed species are fighting back. In his office on the John Miller, Frank studied the next phase of the war plan. The Xorlethi were gathering their remaining ships to defend their homeworld. It would be the largest space battle in history. Lisa Miller was no longer on Earth. Against the wishes of world leaders, she had joined the fleet. Now she stood on the bridge of the John Miller beside Frank. The Xorlethi Supreme Fleet has 20,000 ships, Frank told her. They've called in everything they have left. Lisa nodded. And we're bringing 200,000. She looked at the star map showing the Xorlethi homeworld. They still don't understand, do they? No, Frank said. They think we want their territory or resources. They don't understand this is about justice. Lisa touched the picture of John she kept with her. It's time to end this. Prepare all ships for the jump to Xorleth. The human fleet gathered once more. 200,000 dreadnoughts formed a sphere so vast it would take light hours to cross from one side to the other. At Lisa's command, they jumped to faster than light speed. The Xorlethi Emperor sat in his palace on the homeworld. Once, he had ruled the largest empire in the known galaxy. Now, most of it was lost. Hundreds of worlds had fallen to the humans or rebelled. How much longer until their fleet arrives? He asked his generals. Ours, Your Majesty, one replied. Our supreme fleet is in position. The Emperor's scales darkened with anger. How could one primitive species do this to us? And for what? One ship, one death. His oldest advisor stepped forward. Perhaps that is why they are winning, Your Majesty. They value each life so much that they would build 500,000 ships to avenge one death. We never understood their determination. Before the Emperor could reply, alarms sounded throughout the palace. The human fleet had arrived. In space above Xorleth, the Xorlethi Supreme Fleet faced the human armada. 20,000 against 200,000. The largest battle in galactic history was about to begin. Lisa stood calmly on the bridge of the John Miller. Open a channel to the Xorlethi flagship. On the main screen, the face of the Xorlethi Fleet Admiral appeared. His 4 eyes widened at the sight of a human. This is Lisa Miller of Earth, she said. You killed my husband, Captain John Miller, 3 years ago when you destroyed his ship without reason. The Xorlethi Admiral blinked in confusion. One death caused all this. Yes, Lisa replied simply. Now you face a choice. Surrender, or we will destroy your fleet. Not your civilians, not your planet, just those who fight us. The Xorlethi Admiral laughed. You may have more ships, but we will fight to the last one. Lisa shook her head sadly. So be it. She turned to Frank. Begin the attack. The human dreadnoughts moved forward. Their quantum disruption weapons fired in perfect sequence. Xorlethi ships exploded by the hundreds, then thousands. The Xorlethi fought bravely but hopelessly. Their weapons could barely damage the human ship's advanced shields. Within an hour, half the Xorlethi fleet was destroyed. On their flagship, the Xorlethi Admiral watched in horror. Nothing in their history had prepared them for this level of defeat. Send the message, he told his communication officer. Tell the Emperor we must surrender. As the battle raged, other human ships helped rebellions on nearby worlds. Admiral Davis had sent 50,000 dreadnoughts to free planets still under Xorlethi control. On one such world, a young alien child watched human ships land. For the first time in her life, there were no Xorlethi soldiers on the streets. Are we free now? She asked her parent. Yes, They replied. The humans have freed us. Around the Xorlethi homeworld, the remaining human ships formed a ring. 300,000 dreadnoughts surrounded the planet, a display of power no race had ever witnessed before. The message was clear. The Xorlethi Empire was finished. The grand hall of the Xorlethi Imperial Palace was silent. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, aliens walked its floors not as slaves or prisoners, but as equals. Representatives from 50 different species sat in a great circle. In the center stood two figures, Lisa Miller and the Xorlethi Emperor. The terms of surrender are simple, Lisa said, her voice carrying through the hall. The Xorlethi Empire ends today. All conquered worlds are free to choose their own paths. Your military will be reduced to defense forces only. The Emperor's scales had faded to a pale gray. He looked old and defeated. And what happens to my people? Will you destroy us as we would have destroyed you? Lisa shook her head. No, that is the difference between us. Your people will keep their homeworld and 10 colony planets. You will join the new Galactic Council as equals, not rulers. Surprise showed in the Emperor's 4 eyes. After all we did, you show mercy. Justice, not revenge, Lisa replied. That is humanity's way. Outside the palace, 500,000 human dreadnoughts filled the sky. They had surrounded the planet in a display of power that would be remembered for generations. Yet not one weapon had been fired at the civilian population. 3 days later, the Galactic Council held its first meeting. Representatives from Earth sat beside former slaves of the Xorlethi. Even the Xorlethi themselves had a seat, though they spoke little. Admiral Frank Davis presented the new peace treaty. Each world governs itself, he explained. The Council will handle disputes and protect all members equally. Zik, the small green alien who had helped Earth, asked the question many were thinking. And who will enforce these rules? Who has the power to make them work? All eyes turned to the humans. With their fleet of 500,000 dreadnoughts, they could rule the galaxy if they chose to. Lisa Miller stood up. The human fleet will protect all worlds in the Council, including former Xorlethi worlds. We will enforce the peace, but we will not rule. She walked to the center of the room and activated a hologram. It showed a space station shaped like a 5-pointed star. This will be built at a neutral location, Lisa explained. It will be called the John Miller Memorial Station. The Council will meet there, and a portion of the human fleet will protect it. 1 month later, Lisa stood in a garden on Earth. The planet was healing after years of building the war fleet. Trees were being planted where factories had once stood. People smiled again. Frank joined her, looking up at the sky. Most of the fleet is in storage now, he said. Just 50,000 ships remain active, spread across the galaxy. Lisa nodded. It's enough. No one will threaten peace again for a long time. The Miller Doctrine is being taught in schools across 50 worlds, Frank said with a smile. The value of a single sentient life is immeasurable, and we will protect it with immeasurable force if necessary. Lisa looked at the small stone in the center of the garden. It was simple, with just a name and 2 dates. John Miller, the man whose death had changed the galaxy. He would be proud, she whispered, not of the war, but of the peace that followed. In space, the John Miller Memorial Station was nearing completion. Ships from 100 worlds brought materials and workers. Former enemies worked side by side. A young Xorlethi diplomat watched as a human crew installed the station's main computer. I don't understand, he said to his human guide. You could have destroyed us. Why didn't you? The human, an older man who had helped build the dreadnoughts, fought for a moment. Because then we would have become what we fought against. Captain Miller wouldn't have wanted that. The Xorlethi considered this. 1 life, he said quietly. 1 life caused all this change. Yes, the human replied. That's what makes us human. Each life matters. Across the galaxy, the story spread. How humans had built 500,000 dreadnoughts to avenge 1 death. how they had crushed the greatest empire in history, and then how they had shown mercy and victory. On a distant world, a teacher told the story to her class. And that is why, children, we never attack humans, not because of their weapons, but because of their hearts. They value life so much they will move the stars to protect it. In her home on Earth, Lisa placed fresh flowers beside John's picture. "We did it," she said softly. "We changed the galaxy. For you and for everyone." The stars looked peaceful that night, as they hadn't in years. A new order had begun.